Hi, it's Nicole, and today I am cutting into the Simple Vintage Classic Pooh from Simple Stories. This is a free sketch that I am going to be following along. This is from SCT Magazine 2023 Summer Edition. I'll have them linked below. I keep going back because I'm really liking their double page sketches that they have been posting. They're designed by Allison Davis. So I've been going there first because they're free and I can share them with you guys on top of the fact that they're just good. So I picked this one because it would allow me to have a lot of photos. I at first was super excited about Classic Pooh, and then I was super intimidated because I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I was one of those kids that loved Pooh. I still have from when I was a kid, the books, with the classic illustrations and stuff. So I loved the line, but I was kind of hesitant about what to use it for. And a lot of times when I'm trying to plan layouts and I've got deadlines coming up and I have different things that I want to do, but I'm not sure photos, I will just sit down, open up my photos, and start looking. One of my favorite things to look for first are professional photos that we've had taken when my kids were really little. We used to do a spring session for just the kids, and then fall was the whole family. And I remembered that I had only done, I think, some of the photos from this. I think it was just my son in a different outfit. And I hadn't done the ones of my son and my daughter together. And as soon as I saw them, it just kind of reminded me of a lot of the quotes in Pooh about together, walking through life together, growing up together, never wanting to grow up, those types of things. So I picked the photos that my kids were together. And here you can see I actually have two of the same photos printed out. I'm gonna fix that. Before I glued everything down, I did go and edit a couple photos. If you saw my sneak peek, I shared the photo of my daughter right there showing her bottom to her brother and being goofy. Those are my kids. They are best friends. They make each other laugh. They have the best time together, even still. So while that's not necessarily the most professional photo, I included it because that's just who they are. One of the editing things that I did right here, so a lot of these photos were all from the same sort of vantage point. They were all kind of pulled back so that you could see a lot of the landscape where we were at. So to have my photos look a little bit more diverse is I will zoom in and kind of crop out a lot of that on some of them. So I found one of the ones where way over on the right, you can see they're walking together, you can see their full body, and you can see that they are on a third of the canvas, and the rest of it is all of the trees and the path and all of that. I took a different image, same thing, they're walking away from the camera, and I zoomed in on them holding hands. So that just kind of breaks up a lot of the photos that really look a little bit different. I did the same thing where they're zoomed in and they're squeezing each other really tight and laughing. The pulled back one is the 4x6 over on the left, and then I did a 3x4 really cropped in. So sometimes if you feel like your photos look the same, maybe the expressions are just a tiny bit different or the body movement is a little bit different, but the actual distance is the same, just zoom in and crop in really tight on their faces or their hands, walking together, that kind of thing. And it helps make your photos look a little bit more diverse and a little bit more interesting. So I am almost done putting down all the papers and photos while I was kind of going off on a little side quest tangent. I pretty much followed the sketch. I think I might have swapped out maybe some of the photo sizes. I cut some of the 3x4 cut aparts from the papers to use as fillers. And then I've mentioned this before, if I can't quite settle on something, I'll change some things up, take pictures of it, go back and look at the pictures myself, send it to a couple friends, kind of get some advice. Sometimes it's just decision fatigue. Sometimes it's things look too similar and I just need somebody else to look at it, or I need to look at it from a distance. So until I decide on that, I'm going to set all that to the side and just keep going. I am going to do just some hand stitching on this yellow pattern paper here, just tone on tone, real simple back stitch in this area. I really considered stitching around this notebook paper section that I have on the left because it has pre-printed stitching. Like here I even drew that, and then I kept looking at it and I was like, well, if I stitch that, the design is sort of printed and it keeps going and then it gets cut off and then my stitches are going to look weird. Ultimately, I ended up not stitching on that and just went with the, pre-printed stitching that was on there. I think it looks fine mixed with the hand stitching that I'm going to do on the yellow. I've said before, I like to draw a line with a pencil and then just freehand my holes. After years of trying different variations of either holding a ruler, using a ruler with holes already poked into it, this is just what works best for me. And it's one of those things that's like muscle memory. It's like cutting journaling strips apart. It's something that you do all the time. You get better at it and you get more comfortable with it. So I'm just more comfortable poking freehand if I draw a straight line. I'm less apt to bump the ruler or move it from pressure, that kind of thing. And I do like to erase the pencil line just because sometimes I can see it after I've stitched. So I prefer to go ahead and erase it once I've poked my holes. And I just usually try to find some thread in my stash that is a good like tone on tone match. I did cut out a lot of my decision making in this video to save you guys some time and save me some voiceover work. Basically, it's just me flipping back and forth through stuff. The sketch itself had the journaling where I'm going to do like a big title. Anytime I can find an excuse to do like a fun stacked typography style word art title, whatever you want to call it, I will try to do it. And I've noticed I feel like all of the collections that Simple Stories has sent me, other than like the simple sets, they all seem to have the sentiment die cut pack and then the foam stickers. And then on top of everything else, there's like words and phrases and titles kind of strewn throughout all of the collections. So it makes it like a fun kind of puzzle to build together. Sometimes I can build something that makes sense. Sometimes I'm going more off of like vibes and feel. So like this one isn't necessarily like an entire phrase that would run together and make sense. It's more the overall concept of them being friends together, you and me together, and then the best kind of adventure. So basically just anything that kind of plays into the idea of being together. The other thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, even before I was on the Simple Stories design team, anytime I like purchase a new collection or I feel like I have like a lot of product for something and I know that I'm going to have like shiny squirrel syndrome, sometimes I will narrow my focus on purpose where I'll only pull a couple papers and then I'll pick like a couple embellishment types and dig through those. And I don't know, it works for my process because I've also done the opposite where I've sort of laid everything out. So with like creating with collections that I've done in the past, I've laid everything out and dug through everything at once. For this one, I was really focused on the like phrasing pieces, the rub-ons, and the floral die cut pack. There was plenty within those things to make this little scene that I'm going to start building here on the left. A lot of times when I look through sketches and I have product that I really want to build a scene, I will comb through sketches until I come across one that I'm like, ooh, this I can do a scene on. And that was kind of one of the deciding factors when I was looking for sketches for this as well. The only issue with this one was it was a vertical orientation. So like originally I wanted to use like the other parts on the rub-on sheet where you have like Christopher Robin and Pooh and everybody's kind of standing or walking. That would have been really, really cute to do in like a horizontal type scene where it's more of like a traditional scene with like landscape and something's happening. In a vertical scene, I tend to go a little bit looser with design concepts. I just start squeezing things in and layering different things. So like I made sure to put some rub-ons that are going to kind of get pushed visually backward. And then I started laying a bunch of different florals. I like to cut things in half, especially if it's getting butted up against something. I like to do an initial layer of items, and then I will put down the little like 1/4 inch strip that I had cut and set aside. This is sort of a border, an end cap in my mind, the edge of the shelf that everything's kind of sitting on, tucked underneath. So I like to go ahead and put as much down that's going to be flat underneath this before I start coming in and popping anything up. I like to have a couple things layered over this. I think it just kind of helps everything look cohesive and like mesh well together. I did go ahead and put these 3 phrases. It's part of that famous quote where it's like, you're stronger than you think, you're braver than you are. What, you guys know what I'm talking about. And I can't read it from here. But those are like things that I've told my kids for years. So I wanted to find a way to include them. So I just went ahead and tucked them in that scene. I think in the end, it wasn't my favorite like element that I added. I think that they kind of stick out a little too far, but I like the sentiment behind them. So I left them. One of the solutions for me is to just keep adding stuff. So I brought in some enamel dots, and then I brought in some more like forward dimension using the bumblebees that were on the foam sheet. And then that's pretty much it for the left page. The right page, I had some stuff set aside while I was making the scene that I thought would work over here. And I'm just going to kind of embellish these 2 tag areas. That top one's going to be for my journaling. And then I'm going to just put some stuff over here on the right one. There was these 2 cute speech bubbles. To me, it played in with, you know, the 2 kids, the boy and the girl, the pink and the blue, them chatting back and forth. So when I'm looking for specific embellishments and items, I am sort of keeping my like photos and story in mind as well, while still kind of picking the fun stuff. I did go ahead and make sure to include some rub-ons on this side of the layout as well. I like to try to make sure that whatever I use in my scene, I go ahead and use on the other side of my layout to, again, keep things like matching. Typed up my journaling into strips and I put them on foam adhesive. I usually like to start like I did here and go from the bottom up to make sure I've got enough room for everything. And then I'm going to come in and add in some florals because that was sort of the last element in my scene that I needed to bring over into the right. So I think I had the blue one was left over from another one I had cut in half. I like to go ahead and use those while they're out if I can. Brought in this little yellow one. And then I may have stopped at this point. Sometimes I have to stop and be like, do I really need to keep adding? No. So here is my finished layout. I absolutely love this collection. I think this one plays into so many different themes. I think I'm going to probably pull this out again for some more photos from this session. And I have so many ideas. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're new, I'd love for you to subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And hopefully something will be suggested here that you guys can check out. And until then, I'll catch you later.